welcome to the Wool Needles Hands podcast. This is an evening edition of the podcast. I am filming this after dark, which is why the curtains are closed. I want to welcome you guys though. It is a really lovely evening here. It's chilly. The house is a little bit chilly, but it's nice and cozy. My name is Taylor and I am your host here today. I am coming to you from Henderson, Nevada, which is where I am from and where I live with my husband Brandon, our 2.5-year-old son Angus, our big fluffy cat Oscar, and then like I've said the last few times, which so you probably already know, we are expecting a new member of the family at the end of March, so that is exciting news, but we consider this little person part of our family already, even though we haven't met him yet, so it's pretty special. This is episode 17. Thank you so much for stopping by to check it out. If you are new to the podcast, thank you so much for coming and taking some time to hang out with me here. If you are a returning viewer and subscriber, thank you so much for coming back time and time again each time I upload a new episode. I've met quite a few of you on the Ravelry group and it's so nice to hear from you. Thank you so much for checking out the Ravelry group, which you can definitely go do. Search Wool Needles Hands Podcast in the groups tab. Introduce yourself over there. Let us know who you are. Tell us a little bit about yourself. You can get involved in some of the things we have going on over there, which I'll talk about in just a moment. But thank you so much for being a part of this. It means so much to me, and I'm really excited to be back here with you guys chatting about some knitting and some fun fiber-related topics. I'm actually filming a little sooner than I would have normally filmed. I wanted to get a podcast in before the shop update and also before the release of a pattern that I have coming out on Tuesday, just so we could chat a little bit about that and I could keep you guys updated on that. But it's really great to be back. If you'd like to get in touch, you can definitely find me on Instagram. I am at Wool Needles Hands. You can also find me through my hand-dyed yarn business on Instagram, which is at fiber.for.the.people, and my shop's website is fiberforthepeopleyarn.com. There is a shop update coming on Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, which is December 5th. You can also contact me via email if you have any questions regarding the show or anything you'd like to ask at woolneedleshands@gmail.com, and you can of course get in touch with me via Ravelry as well. I definitely think that if you want to correspond with me, the best way to do that to get an immediate response would be via email. I am on Ravelry regularly, but not nearly as regularly as I would be answering or receiving my emails on that email address, so that would be the best way to correspond with me. Stick around for a while and hang out. We are just going to chat up some fiber-related topics, some knitting, some works in progress. I do have a hoe to share with you guys today and a finished object to share with you guys, plus all the yummy yarn that's coming to the Fiber for the People update on Tuesday. So let's go ahead and get started. We have some knit-alongs going on. Actually, we have one knit-along going on right now, and we have one knit-along coming up. So let's go ahead and talk about that. The first knit-along that we have going on, it was originally called, and up until even just right now, it's been the Rhinebeck Sweater Knit-Along, which is kind of silly at this point because plans changed. I did not go to Rhinebeck. Rhinebeck was in October. It's now December, but yet we're still calling it the Rhinebeck Sweater Knit-Along, which I had said we're going to call it that because it's kind of in reference to Rhinebeck sweaters for the future season, but I have an idea. Let's go ahead and actually give this knit-along a hashtag because first of all, the sweaters that you guys are knitting over there and showing on the Ravelry page are amazing, and I really think we need to share these on Instagram using a special hashtag. So we are going to, from this point forward, change the name of this knit-along. I'm going to edit the name of the threads, the finished object thread and the chatter thread on the Ravelry page. Don't be confused, it's the same thread. I'm just going to change the name to match the new knit along name. So we are going to call this the hashtag I Knit Sweaters Cal. So that's pretty much perfect because that's exactly what this knit along is about, is just knitting sweaters. Nothing special, no special motif or technique or anything like that, just sweaters. And the deadline for this is January 1st. We've been working on it since September. So let's go ahead and knit sweaters together. If you would like to knit a sweater and you think you can have one knit by January 1st, join us. It can be a chunky sweater. It can be a fingering weight sweater. It's really completely up to you. That's all we're doing over here. Head over to the Ravelry group, check out some of the things going on in the chatter thread and the finished object thread, or just stick around for a few seconds because I'm going to show you some highlights. And that's pretty much it. So we're just knitting sweaters. Deadline is January 1st. So without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at some of the really amazing finished objects that are coming through the thread over there right now on Ravelry. some of the stuff that you're able to knit in a really short amount of time is incredible. It's really just very inspiring. So if you haven't had a chance to go and delve a little bit deeper into some of the things that are going on over there, definitely do. It's incredibly inspiring. And from this time forward, and even if you want to upload your older pictures of your sweaters, from this point forward, let's post the stuff on Instagram using the hashtag I knit sweaters Cal. I knit sweaters Kal. The next knit along that is going to be coming up is the knit along for the new fire pit mitts pattern, which I have just finished writing, and it's going to be published on the Fiber for the People yarn website on Tuesday at the shop update. It is a free download, so you can download it for free. I will be featuring in the shop some really beautiful, a new worsted weight base called O Merino, and I will have lots of really pretty solids on that worsted weight base, which I will show you guys later on. But that is all coming to the shop on Tuesday, December 5th at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I have actually knit 3 pairs of these, 2 of the long tapered version and 1 of the shorter, larger version. And I'm gonna actually go ahead and just show you what I have so far. One of these is my finished object, so I'm gonna show it to you now and we're gonna get it out of the way. But like I said, I have knit 3 pairs of the fire pit mitts. I love this little stack. I love how neat they lay together like this. That stockinette stitch, you guys, it just makes me so happy looking at layers and layers of stockinette stitch like that. These first 2 were knit in fisherman's wool. The top is English Toffee, which is on my O Merino worsted base. It's gorgeous. This is actually my most recent sample that I've knit for this pattern. So I've knit actually 5 samples of this. 2 were knit last year when I started writing the pattern, and then I knit these 3 samples when I really decided I was going to put pen to paper and make the pattern complete. So these samples are all of the fire pit mitt. So I'm going to go ahead and show you really quick what they look like. They're beautiful. I'm going to show you my most recent finished version of these, which is on my O Merino worsted base by Fiber for the People yarn. It is a gorgeous 100% non-superwash merino. And you guys, it's so soft and luxurious. It's a very fine merino. It has almost a little bit of a sheen to it. It's just really beautiful. So this, what I'm about to show you now, is definitely much more sumptuous and fine than the mitts when they are knit on the fisherman's wool. And that is for those of you that want something a little softer, something a little bit more luxurious. And then if you want something more rugged, then definitely the fisherman's wool. But this is my most recent finished version of these. So I'm going to put these on and I'm going to show you guys. I was actually wearing these today at our garage sale because it was really, really chilly, and they were the perfect accessory for that, because you need to have your hands available for dealing with, you know, money and cash or whatever. And I was knitting while I was out there, so they were perfect for that as well. Okay, here they are. So this is, and there's really no like fashionable way for me to show these to you. I may stand up here in just a second, but here they are. These are the fire pit mitts. I'm gonna stand up. So the fire pit mitts, this particular version, like I mentioned before, are long. They are about elbow length if I really pull it all the way down. They start off at your upper arm a little bit wider, and then they taper down. There is a decrease about right here, and then they taper down to the wrist. You have your thumb gusset, and then the rest of your hand. The rest of your hand actually extends 2.5 inches from the thumb hole, and the thumb only extends 2 inches because 2.5 inches would be too long. The reason why I made this portion of the hand a little bit longer is because I like being able to pull it up, hide your fingers in there when it gets cold, and then you can roll it back down if you need more space. I also love that it tapers because you have a kind of a very consistent fit all the way up the arm. It doesn't squeeze too much here and get really loose here. It's a very consistent fit. The this particular yarn, like I said, is O Merino worsted. This is Fiber for the People yarn. This is the English Toffee colorway. It's a very fine, soft, sumptuous yarn. I had to go up in needle size when I was using this yarn just because that was how I managed to get gauge. So just kind of something to keep in mind, but I love this so much. So I'm gonna go ahead and sit down. So you guys, I love these. You can see how many I've knit in a very short period of time because they really literally fly off the needles. They're just beautiful. The only thing that I would say is if you have a tendency to develop ladders when knitting something like this on double pointed needles, those ladders are going to be very noticeable in this particular pattern. So you want to be really, really sure to tighten up the second stitch on each of your double pointed needles. It's that second stitch that needs to be nice and tight, and that will help to keep those ladders from becoming out of control. You can actually see that I do have a tendency to have that problem. I had some laddering going on right here, so about right here I switched to the magic loop method, and then no more ladders. They were all gone. So that's, if you know the magic loop, I would definitely recommend it for this. If you don't know the magic loop, just like I said, the second stitch on each of your DPNs, that's the one you really want to tighten, and that'll help the ladder problem. I think I just have a tendency to forget that, and so I just kind of knit around and I don't think too much to tighten that, and then that's why I have the ladders. I didn't notice it nearly as much when I used fisherman's wool, but that's because the fisherman's wool definitely has a halo to it. It's much more rugged. It's not nearly as fine. I would even go so far as to say it's scratchy, but it's because it's a real hardy wool. And I love it even though it feels that way, because it feels really rustic and hardy and earthy, and it really is very warm. For whatever reason, I knit all of these with the fisherman's wool on DPNs, and I had no problem. So it's just usually something that gives such nice stitch definition, like this yarn, because it really does. The stitch definition is pretty incredible. I mean, look at that. It's so gorgeous. You're definitely going to see laddering more easily with something like this. So just kind of keep that in mind. It's really, once it's on your arm, it's not super noticeable, so no sweat it. But I love knitting with DPNs. So when I went to Magic Loop, it was just because I wanted to avoid the laddering on the side, but otherwise I really like knitting with DPNs. But more on that later. So this is the Fire Pit mitts. These are the ones on O Merino worsted, which is Fiber for the People yarn. Really, really gorgeous yarn. This is the English Toffee colorway. I'm telling you, I'm pretty sure that this O Merino worsted is my new favorite base. I am a worsted weight knitter through and through. I talked about a couple episodes ago my sweet spot combination of needle and yarn, and it is a worsted weight yarn on a size 7 needle, and folks, that is what these are. So this is really just my cup of tea. I also have fisherman's wool version of the long tapered mitt, and then I have the fisherman's wool version of the short mitt. So here is the fisherman's wool of the long tapered mitt that I just showed, and I'm going to see if it'll fit. Okay, there we go. So that is the fisherman's wool version here. You can see the yarn is definitely much more rustic, more rugged, but it is so beautiful. And as I mentioned in the previous episodes, these mitts were inspired by a pair of mitts that Claire wears in Outlander when she ends up in the past. And so that's kind of what inspired this particular color. This is Fisherman's Wool Nature's Brown. This is the shorter version of the mitt. These are larger on me because they are the large size. But it's a shorter version, definitely something my husband really likes to wear, just because it's more suitable for him. This is the oatmeal color of the fisherman's wool. I'm going to take it off so you can kind of see them a little bit closer up. So here are the two colors. And if you are familiar with fisherman's wool, it does come in two additional colors. So you have the oatmeal here, nature's brown here, and then there's also kind of a tweed color, and then a more creamy looking natural ecru color. But yeah, these are really gorgeous. An update to the pattern. What I had mentioned before was that I was going to write the pattern so you had a single size for the long version and you had a single size for the short version. But I have actually worked it so that you have a small, medium, and large of the long and a small, medium, and large of the short. So there are options there because pretty much these mittens are unisex. It doesn't matter if you are a lady or a man. You could wear either one of these, so I definitely made it so that it has sizes to fit all hands, or most hands. But I think it should be pretty comfortable for most hand sizes. So that is good news as well. In the future, I'm planning on coming up with a toddler and a child's version of these, so everybody in the family can have a pair because they are that amazing. But that won't be on the pattern release on Tuesday, that will be later. But the pattern release on Tuesday will have a pattern for small, medium, large of the short mitts, and small, medium, large of the long mitts. And it will also have different suggested yarns. The first one being the Fiber for the People O Merino Worsted. And then the second will be the Fisherman's Wool, because I love Fisherman's Wool. I love O Merino Worsted. I love Fisherman's Wool. So why not do both? So that is coming on Tuesday, December 5th, to the Fiber for the People yarn shop update. Now let's talk about the knit along. The knit along starts on December 12th. So that gives you enough time that if you would like to purchase O Merino Worsted from the shop update on Tuesday, it gives you enough time to order it and get it sent to you and delivered to your home so you have it to start on December 12th. I get all of my orders out really, really quickly. You would be surprised that it gets to you as fast as it does. So keep that in mind. Even if you are international, you should have it by the 12th. And even if you don't have it by the 12th and you have to start a couple days late, no big deal. You don't have to start on the 12th as long as you're finished by the deadline. And folks, I don't even have a deadline yet, so we're going to talk about that in a later episode. Every pair of these that you knit is going to be considered an entrance to win a prize at the end. I haven't determined the prize, but it's going to be beautiful. Also, if you choose to knit however many pairs of these you choose to knit, if you choose to knit them in Fiber for the People yarn, that is a bonus entry. So I thank you for choosing to use my yarn. It is very beautiful and perfect for this pattern. You don't have to. You can use yarn from your stash. We all know we need to be busting our stash yarn. That is totally fine. But I'm throwing it out there. I have made some really beautiful colors available to you guys for the shop update, so it is always an option for you. So it starts on the 12th of December, and it goes until, I'm not really exactly sure when we're going to cut it off, probably someplace close to the end of December, because you can knit a pair of these in like a night and a half. So I mean, you could have a pair for everybody in your family by the end of December, especially by Christmas. If you are celebrating Christmas or any of the winter holidays where you're giving gifts, these are perfect options for that, so keep that in mind. If you want any more information about this, check out the Ravelry page for this knit along. Let us know that you're excited. Show us your yarn stash. I saw a couple stash photos over there just yesterday, actually, and I was super excited to see what you guys were going to be using to knit, unless, of course, you're waiting to buy Fiber for the People yarn, which I thank you. Otherwise, just get involved because it's going to be a lot of fun, and I can't wait to knit another pair of these, quite frankly, because I could just knit these and have these on the needles perpetually. So the hashtag that we're going to be using for this knit along is hashtag FirePitMittsCal. So that's it, FirePitMitts KAL. So post all of your pictures on Instagram when the knit along starts using hashtag FirePitMittsCal. So like I said, it is actually 6:30 in the evening right now. We just got done eating dinner. My husband made a really amazing Southwestern grilled chicken salad, and it was delicious. I'm telling you, when he throws things together, they're really, really special, and it was really delicious. I was thinking I was probably going to film with you guys and then eat after I got done filming because I wasn't super hungry, but as soon as he started cooking, it was like, oh no, filming can wait. And I ate dinner with my family, which was really good. And now I'm in here spending some time with you guys with a warm cup of tea. It's a little chilly. I mean, it's chilly. I have the window cracked open right now just because I love feeling a cool breeze come in. But it's nice. It's very cozy in here. Anyway, the reason I'm filming this after dark is because we have been so busy all weekend. I have planned on filming this earlier this weekend, but we had a garage sale this weekend. We really wanted to get that going before it gets too cold. So we had a garage sale on Friday and today, and that took up a lot of our time. And then today we had a water leak that we had to deal with. It was crazy. It was taken care of. It could have been way worse, and it was totally fine. But we got that taken care of. We put Christmas lights up today. Like, are you kidding me? We had a garage sale. My husband went to Lowe's and then like Home Depot and then Target to get Christmas lights because the ones we were looking for, you know, they didn't have them or whatever. So they put up Christmas lights. We had the garage sale. There was a water leak. We took care of the water leak. We had dinner. I'm amazed that I am not just dead on my feet, but I'm really excited to hang out with you guys. So let's go ahead and talk about what I'm drinking today. This is actually a new tea, and if you have ordered anything from me from Fiber for the People, I have packed away little samples of this tea in your package. I always pack a tea in every order of Fiber for the People yarn, and these most recent orders have been sent with this tea, and this is a Tazo tea. and it is called Organic Bramblewine, and it's really, really delicious. It's actually a green tea, and which is good right now because it's got just a little bit of caffeine in it to kind of keep me going, but it's really delicious. It's got kind of like a strawberry jam type flavor with some raspberries in there, and then it has that green tea undertone. It's really quite beautiful, very like floral. There's no flowers in the tea, it's just fruit, but it's got that kind of floral appeal to it, and I love the color. It's actually very similar to the color of my sweater, and I'm gonna remember that because I love the name Bramblewine. There's a colorway coming in the near future that's going to be called Bramblewine, because if this is that color, then I'm happy about that. So this is Organic Bramblewine by Tazo, and it's delicious. So let's go ahead and carry on with the podcast now that you know a little bit about why we're filming in the evening. So go ahead and get yourself a cup of tea, get your knitting, get cozy, and let's carry on. So just a little bit ago, I talked to you about my first finished object, or actually my only finished object today, which is my third pair of fire pit mitts using O Merino worsted, the new worsted weight yarn base by Fiber for the People. Now, this is a 100% non-superwash merino, which is great. I'm really excited to carry a non-superwash variety of merino yarn because there are those of us out there who prefer completely sustainable yarn, and this is definitely an option for those of you. But I also love the texture of this yarn. It really is very, very beautiful. It has a much more kind of, I don't want to say it's rustic because it's not rough or scratchy or anything like that, but it just feels hardier than your typical superwash merino wool. And I have nothing against the superwash merino yarn. I just really enjoy having those options, and this yarn is really, really very beautiful. Like I mentioned a little bit ago, it does have fabulous stitch definition. I love the way it looks in a solid. I am not going to have any of the O Merino worsted on in any speckled colorways for this shop update, but they will be coming definitely in future updates. These are going to be solids, and we all know that when you're dealing with hand-dyed yarn, independently dyed yarn, a solid can definitely be considered a semi-solid because it's very difficult for everything to be perfectly solid, as if it were coming from a factory, of course. You are going to have the streaking happening that you can see here. And actually, I see it a lot more on the screen of the camera than I do in person. It's just such a beautiful color, and quite honestly, I kind of like to see that variation in tone in the solids. It's really beautiful. So I'm really excited about these. I tried them on for you so you saw what they look like. They're just perfect. What I love most about this particular version of the mitt is the length. I love fingerless mittens of all varieties, but I really tend to gravitate towards a simple stockinette version. Even the ribbed border that you see, the cuff and the fingers that you see on a lot of designs is beautiful. I love it, but it's just, it doesn't always draw my eye the way a nice curled stockinette edge does on a fingerless mitt. It just seems so rustic, and I don't know. It seems as if it was knit purely for functionality and not necessarily for fashion. And I know that might not be a really great reason to love something so much, but I think that that's really why I love these so much, is they look functional and they look like they do what they're supposed to do, and for that reason, because they come in these beautiful colors, for that reason, they're really fashionable. I don't even know if that makes any sense. That as I'm saying that, it kind of sounds crazy, but that's, I think, what I love about these so much. And I really love the look of stockinette stitch. And not only that, I love knitting things like this because it is true mindless knitting, in the sense that you really don't have to think so much about what you're knitting. You can focus on maybe a podcast that you're listening to or watching on TV, or a show, or you can just sit there and get lost in other random thoughts. And it's really perfect for that. So I love these so much. I really hope that you join in the knit along and knit yourself your own pair, because they, trust me, they are glorious. You are going to love them. Knit a pair for your entire family because they're beautiful. So that is my finished object. I'm not going to talk about it anymore since I've kind of talked a lot about it, but what can I say? I'm like a doting parent over these mittens. Moving on. I do have a hoe today, really, really excited. My half object for today is another pair of chunky, or I guess I should say half of a pair of chunky house socks. I don't know what it is about me and chunky knits. No, scratch that. I know exactly what it is about me and chunky knits lately. When the weather cools down, all I want to knit are chunky knits, or, you know, worsted weight, Aran weight knits, because that, I don't know, that's what sings to me, and I love the speed that I can knit them with, and I don't know, just everything about it, just, it's cozy. It's, you know, it's like that whole, like, hygge movement, that Scandinavian, you know, movement of living cozy. It just reminds me of all of that kind of thing. Cup of hot tea, or coffee and cocoa, or cold weather, a fire pit, and some really bulky knits. I don't know, it's just all beautiful to me. So anyway, I worked out another half object with some bulky yarn on a pair of house socks. So this is, it's not a pattern that's specific, it's a vanilla sock, but I knit this up on another skein of stash yarn, which was Patton's Tweed Bulky, or Bulky Tweed. I can't remember exactly what it's called. The labels were missing, I just knew that that's what it was. So this is Patton's Bulky Tweed, and I really love this colorway. It's an oatmeal base with lots of blue and brown flecks throughout. It's just, I just love it so much. Actually, Kristen, who is Mama Holmes on Ravelry, just mentioned to me on my most recent episode thread that an experienced knitter friend of hers said that before Patton's was sold in bigger box stores like Joann and Michael's, it was actually sold in your local yarn store, but that they wanted to expand their reach to all sorts of knitters everywhere, so they started providing their products to larger stores that were more accessible to more knitters. And I think that that's really, really awesome. Not all of us live in a region where there are lots of local yarn shops where they sell the more artisan or designer yarns, and so you do rely solely on your craft stores like Joann and Michael's and Hobby Lobby. And so being able to find really quality wool products like Patton's is really quite a gem and an opportunity. So I think that that's cool. I did not know that. So Kristen, thank you for sharing that. I thought that was really interesting, because as you know, I have a love affair with Patton's and Lion Brand Fisherman's wool, because they just are beautiful and affordable and available easily. So I don't know, but anyway, love these. These are definitely going to be a bulkier sock. The yarn is a true bulky weight. I don't know exactly what my stitch count is on this. I didn't keep track of it, but I just did a 1x1 rib on the cuff. This is a 36 stitch cuff, so 36 stitches, a 1x1 rib, and then I did, I want to say this is about a 7-inch leg right here, heel flap and gusset, and then a rounded toe. And it's perfect. I really, really love it. It's nice and cozy, and it fits my foot a little bit more snug than my work socks, which I showed in the last episode. It definitely fits a little bit more snug, so you could wear this with a looser fitting boot, but it's perfect as a house slipper sock. I love it so much. And the length, the only thing I would do differently, I think, if I were to knit these again, which I definitely will because I just love socks like this. I feel like I could have pairs and pairs of socks like this, almost more so than I could have pairs and pairs of fingering weight socks, only because I don't live in a region where you could be wearing socks in the house all year long, because it does get quite hot here in the summer months. But in the winter time, it gets really cold and you just want to put on cozy, cozy socks, and these are perfect for that. But the only thing that I would do differently next time is I would knit a significantly longer leg, because I love having a really long leg and being able to scrunch the leg down over a pair of, I don't know, whether I'm wearing like some skinny sweats or some leggings or what have you, I could scrunch it down over that. I can do that a little bit with these, but I would like it to be like maybe even like 11 inches. I know that seems crazy, but a nice 11-inch leg all the way down can really give it a good scrunch. In fact, my work socks, that's, I think, the measurement of the leg. I think it's about 11 inches. I'm going to show you my work socks and we can compare the length of the leg. So here's my work sock. So you can see that the leg here is definitely a lot longer. And if I compare it to my other chunky sock, it's significantly longer. So this is definitely the length I would go for. I would do these patent socks again, and I would just do them with a longer leg. So This also, if you haven't seen the previous episode or you haven't seen my Instagram posts with these work socks, I'm going to throw it on my sock blocker really quick. These were also knit in Patton's Classic Wool Worsted. And it's really a great go-to worsted weight yarn if you need something on the fly. You probably already have it in your stash. It's just great. If you are a fan of Cascade 220, this is a great budget kind of version of that. I wouldn't even call it a knockoff because I really don't think you're sacrificing much in the way of quality, to be completely honest, but you can get it for a little bit better of a budget. It is a 100% non-superwash merino yarn, and the yarn is produced in Turkey. So that's actually interesting. You don't hear a lot about yarn produced in Turkey, but Patton's Classic Wool is produced in Turkey. So anyway, this is the work sock. You can actually see here how this fits my sock blocker, so you can see that it's a little bit looser than my previous sock, but the leg is a lot longer. I can scrunch it down, and yeah, it's really cute. You can tell I've worn these a little bit because it's already dirty on the heel a little bit. But this is Patton's Classic Wool Worsted. I used, I can't remember exactly the color, but just their red, their cream, and then their light gray. They have a deeper gray, which is also very beautiful, and I have another project I'm going to show you where I use the deeper gray. This is their lighter gray, and I would love to get my hands on a sweater's quantity of this light gray color, because I think that's I'm actually knitting a sweater in the deeper gray of this, but I think a sweater in the lighter gray of this, like a cardigan, would be beautiful. I think it's a gorgeous color. So those are my work socks from a previous episode. They have been done for a little while, but this is my bulky vanilla sock, and it is completely finished. I'm going to go ahead and show you the progress I'm making on the other one. Here is what I have done of the other sock. So you guys, I'm really close. These will be done. I mean, if I sat down tonight and just worked on this, they would be done in no time. So that's that. I will have another pair of chunky socks to keep my feet warm as the temperatures start to drop here in no time. And that is Patton's bulky tweed. All right, I have a few whips that I'm going to share with you guys. One of the whips that I'm not going to share with you guys today, I am working on it, but I haven't made much progress, so I'm not going to talk a lot about it this episode, is the Nolita sweater by We Are Knitters. I will talk plenty more about that next episode, because now that I've gotten a few things off the needles and halfway off the needles, I'm devoting more time to that, so that will probably be pretty close to done the next time that I record an episode. So I'm just going to skip over that this time around and talk about some of the other things I've been working on a little bit more. The first thing I'm going to show you is another pair of the family work socks, which I showed you just a second ago. This is a pattern that was put out by the Bernat design team on Yarnspirations. They are based on the classic work sock, which I talk about. I give you a little bit of a history lesson about that in the previous episode, but they're just like what you saw here. They're that classic sock with a worsted weight yarn. Love the little stripy design going on here, and then a contrasting heel, cuff, and toe. So that is what they look like, and I am doing it here with some more Patton's Classic Wool that I had in my stash. I've mentioned before that I had tons of this in my stash, and so I'm doing the same thing with this. The only difference with this version of that is that I am knitting this one with 36 stitches. The previous one I showed you before was knit with 40, and they are super cozy. It's like a giant boyfriend sweater for your feet, except they actually fit the length of my foot appropriately. They're really chunky. You could never wear them with shoes. That's kind of how chunky they are. These, I'm hoping, will turn out a little bit more like a traditional chunky boot sock, something that'll fit a little bit more snug to my feet. So I wanted to work up another pair so badly because they're so much fun to knit. So that's what's going on here. Another family work sock pair, and I love it. And I'm actually keeping my other chunky sock whip that I just showed you in this bag with these, so they're sharing that same bag. This is the project bag that I showed you recently in, I think it was the most recent episode of the podcast. I got this at Target, $3 in their bargain bins when you walk in the door. You guys, this is amazing. You really can't beat it. It's a nice zipper, felt, seasonal, festive bag, and it holds 2 chunky sock whips, so that's even better. So my next work in progress it's been kind of like the most soothing knit for me because it's just, again, it's basic stockinette, plus the rows are pretty long, so you can really work on a single row for quite a while and get lost in your knitting. And so I've really enjoyed this particular project. And another thing I'm really enjoying about this is the bag that I'm carrying it in. So I want to share that with you guys just for a second. This is a sewing bag that was given to me by my dad, actually. Well, my mom gave it to me. She had it, but this would belong to my grandma, so my dad's mom. And he almost thinks, too, that it even belonged to her mom. So we're not really sure exactly, but it's very, very old. The fabric is definitely, has, it's lasted endured the test of time, that's for sure. I mean, it's in great condition considering. But it's showing its age, and that's what I love about this so much. And these handles, the old wood, I mean, you can tell that it's been used a lot because the wood up here is nice and smooth and soft. But I don't know, I love this bag. I think there's something so, I don't know, romantic in the idea of using a bag that I know my grandma used, and perhaps maybe even her mom, my great-grandma as well. And my great-grandma, which is really interesting and that makes this even more special, had this been hers at one time, she was actually blind, and she could sew and quilt and do all of those needlework crafts despite that. And she actually taught my grandma how to sew, considering she's blind, and that's amazing. That's really, really amazing. And so it just makes this really special to me. So I threw my knitting in here. I like carrying it around, something like this, when I go. Sometimes I'll take it to the doctor's, or if I'm at the nail place. I like pulling this out and having this and pulling my knitting out of it because it's a traditional craft coming out of a really cool, classic family heirloom piece, I guess. I don't even know if that's what you would consider this, but it's really special. So I wanted to share that with you guys. But the project inside, it's not anything like super fancy, but it's just, I love it so much because it reminds me of those rows and rows of therapeutic stockinette stitch and then purling, because it is a stockinette stitch, but it is knit flat. And I love it. And it is on a new pair of needles, and I'll talk to you about that in a second. So this is a pattern that came from the issue 121 of Knit Today. So I mentioned this in the last episode. It's actually the sweater that you see on the front. I'm going to show you a little bit closer what that looks like. So it is this sweater. It's just your basic oversized drop sleeve sweater. Of course, this one is knit with stripes. I didn't want to knit stripes. I wanted it to be solid and basic and classic because I loved the construction of the sweater and the design of the sweater. That's what I wanted in just a gray sweater. And quite honestly, if I was able to get my hands on it, because I'm using stash yarn, but had I been able to get my hands on a sweater's quantity of this Patton's worsted classic wool gray right here, that's what I would have chosen. But I'm really happy with the color that I have here too, because I love this just as much. So this is what I have so far. I'm just gonna hold this up here. It's kind of getting to the point where it's a lot, so let me work this out for you. Okay, so this is just half of it. It's easier for me to hold it like this. So this is pretty much all I've gotten so far. I'm working up the body. I have to knit 23¼ inches of this up the body. And like I've mentioned in the previous episode, what I love so much about the way they designed this was that they thought about this ribbed border. It's not a very deep ribbed edging here. It's actually pretty shallow, but the ribbing is knit on a significantly smaller needle than the body. And I know that that's common. That's like what we do. That's common practice, but this is a size 3 and this is a size 8. And in my opinion, that's a huge leap in needle size, but it really lends itself nicely to this because you get a firm, crisp, ribbed border. You don't get any kind of a bunching that happens or a weird lip that happens when your ribbing is done with a needle that's similar to the body size. I don't know. That's just one of the things I love about this. But this is what I have so far. It's coming along. It's just basic stockinette stitch. I am using a new pair. I may be pronouncing this incorrectly. I'm not exactly sure. I want to call them Leica. LYKKE. We've seen these lately. They are the Scandinavian driftwood knitting needles. I was really curious about these needles because I was thinking about a new set of interchangeables. Let me get it to focus here. I was thinking about getting a new set of interchangeables, and so I wanted to give these a shot. Now these clearly are not the interchangeables because I only have a single pair. I just got these on Amazon. So I don't know exactly what it would be like to work with the interchangeables, but I wanted to know what it would be like to work with these needle tips. And you guys, they're beautiful. I love them. They are not as fast as a metal needle, of course. They're not as fast as your Addies, but they are so smooth that you kind of feel a really nice rhythm when you're knitting with them. The surface has almost a polished like clay feel to it. It's really nice. The points are sharp enough to get under those stitches without having any problem with that, so they're really great. I really love them. The thing is that when it comes to trying out a single circular to become informed on whether or not you would like the interchangeables, that's actually a problem, because the biggest reason I shy away from an interchangeable needle set is because I really hate the snagging joins that a lot of these interchangeables have. I've tried the Knit Picks, I've tried the Knitter's Pride, I've tried the Addies, and I feel like it doesn't matter between all three of those, which come in a range of price points, they all have a really, really snaggy joins. And it's just really something I can't stand, and to spend as much money as I would on an Addie Click set and have that be a problem, it's just not an option for me. And another thing too, and I mentioned this to my mom, we were having this conversation, is if you are familiar with the magic loop method, if you know how to knit with the magic loop method, really the only thing you need is a needle with a 40-inch cord. Unless you have some other project that requires something larger than that, you can knit anything with a 40-inch cord. And so I don't need an interchangeable set, because going through all of the different cords would be unnecessary, because I could knit anything with a particular needle size and a 40-inch cord. So I don't know. What do you guys think about that? Do you guys experience that same, it's not really a frustration, but quandary when it comes to investing in an interchangeable needle set? So I don't know. I'm at the point I'm thinking, maybe I'll just get a variety of different kinds of needles. I can try all these different kinds of needles and just get them all on 40-inch cords, and then I'll just have a smorgasbord of knitting needles, circular knitting needles. So, but anyway, I love these. If you're interested in trying these, the Leica, I'm butchering the name as I always do, but definitely give them a shot. A single set of circulars is really not very expensive if you purchase it on Amazon, and then it gets to you really fast, so that's a bonus. But anyway, that is I'm calling this my Grayathon sweater, because in the magazine it's called the Stripathon sweater, and it doesn't give you any other name. It doesn't even give you a pattern designer. So I really don't have a lot of details to give you on this, other than that it is a really cute sweater, and you can see the picture there. But yeah, that's what I'm calling it, my Grayathon sweater, and I love it. I really love knitting it. I love pulling out simple knits like this and thinking of the pleasure that I get out of just sitting there and letting myself just melt away into my knitting, and not having to work a lot of intricate pattern design or techniques or anything like that. Just having something that is therapy knitting, because we all need therapy knitting in our lives, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's why we started knitting in the first place, right? Well, I mean, we started because it was trendy, or because somebody taught us, and then it became trendy, but then we realized how therapeutic it is, because our lives are crazy. So anyway, that's one of the things I love about this. So I'm going to go ahead and put this away. I have a couple other whips that I want to show you. One I'm excited about, and is kind of the opposite of this knit, but let's move on and get to that one. So I really love Knitwear Designs by Bristol Ivy. I've always admired her work, and especially some of the things that she's done for Brooklyn Tweed. Now, I have never knit with Brooklyn Tweed yarn up until now, and I've never knit any design from the Brooklyn Tweed website until I stumbled upon this cardigan. Now, warning, I'm probably not going to pronounce this correctly, so I apologize. What can I say? But this is, here we go, the Marylebone. Gosh, I just feel as I say that somebody's just like, oh my gosh, Taylor, what are you doing? But this is the Marylebone cardigan, and I'm showing you here, but I'm also going to patch in a picture so you can see it more detailed. It is by Bristol Ivy. It is knit in Quarry, which is a Brooklyn tweed yarn, and this is the yarn. So here it is in all its glory. I love the aesthetic of Brooklyn tweed. You know, I don't consider myself someone who gravitates towards preppy looks, but I definitely gravitate towards classic lines and designs, and I think that's why I like, you know, stockinette or ribbed stitches or things that just, or cabling even. Those things are really classic for me. Just that whole aesthetic really appeals to me, and so Brooklyn tweed is definitely right up my alley when it comes to that. I really, really love it. I do love color work patterns, and that's a topic for a little bit later because I know everybody's working on these beautiful color work patterns right now, and Brooklyn tweed has that, and one of the things that I love is that they have it in moderation. I'm not so crazy about it that I would want all of the color work patterns, but seeing them kind of sprinkled in amongst the really classic looks that Brooklyn tweed offers is really refreshing. So I love that. But what I love so much about this particular cardigan, it blends that far-fetched, over-cabled look with the really classic construction of a deep V cardigan. And it's knit in this beautiful gray, which is Moonstone. So this is the Moonstone colorway of Quarry, and it's just a really classic cardigan color, kind of like what I was saying about that light gray Patton's wool. It's just a light, really soothing gray color, classic for a cardigan. And this particular cardigan is, like I said, it's just that. You have lots of crazy cables. There's an antler cable going all the way up the back of the cardigan, and then you have these twisted cables that run along the button edge of the front of the cardigan. And then, of course, you have your reverse stockinette stitch everywhere else, and then you have antler cables going up the side of the arms. But it's something about just the construction of the sweater being so classic mixed with the over-the-top cabling that I really love. It's kind of the best of both worlds. And then, of course, you get to play with texture when it comes to the buttons that you choose. And so when I found this, it just was like immediately, oh, and then the pockets, I mean, please, it's just everything. I love how the pockets almost have like the outside seam, so it looks like they're on the reverse side. It's really, really a cool sweater. And so I was super excited about it as soon as I saw it, and I decided I was going to go ahead and indulge in a sweater's quantity of Quarry to knit this because I loved the color as well. So I'm really, really excited about this. I haven't made a ton of progress on this because I am really enjoying the time that I'm spending with my kind of like the effortless knits that I have going on, and it has been a little busy lately, and so those are the things that I think I cling to at the end of the day. But this is a really great knit that I like to curl up with when I'm sitting in bed. My husband and I are sitting in bed and he's reading and I'm listening to an audio podcast, and I can kind of spend my other mental space working on this while I'm listening to a podcast or something like that. So that's kind of where I've been working mostly on this. So I'm going to show you the best I can, because what I have right now is kind of long. I'm going to show you what I have so far, starting with one side. So the cardigan is knit bottom up, and this is what I have so far. So let's see, am I showing you the right side? Yeah. So there's not a lot of the cable to see at this point, but you can see it starting to take shape here. A really easy cable pattern, and then of course you have your reverse stockinette stitch, which is great because it really gives me practice with purling, which I don't like to purl generally, but if I can get some practice, I get a good rhythm down. And then of course this is the back. So this is the beginning of an antler cable, and this will run all the way up the back of the cardigan. And I love that texture so much. It provides such a pretty shape in the final piece. And I'm going to pop a picture in here so that you can see what that's going to look like a little bit close up. But you can see that that cable runs all the way up the back. It's super glamorous, a little over the top, but in a good way. I love it. So really, really pretty. And so that's what I have so far, is just kind of this little bottom portion of the cardigan. And you guys, I'm really, really loving this knit. It's a real fun knit. And the pattern, I mean, you would think that it would probably be one of those things that you really have to devote a lot of mental space to, but quite honestly, It's not. It's super easy to memorize the cable pattern, and then of course you have your reverse stockinette. So you get to work on a more challenging technique, but you don't have to be staring at a huge chart the whole time. It's kind of nice in that way. I want to talk to you a little bit about the yarn though. That is something that kind of popped up while I was knitting, and I'm going to show you a section really quick right here. So this is the back side. This is the wrong side of the piece here. And you see that I have this yarn strand kind of coming from a really odd section of the project. I wouldn't have run out of a skein of yarn this quickly, but what happened is as I was knitting, and because you're cabling, you're going to be pulling a little bit more tightly on the strands of yarn, the yarn just separated. It just broke into two pieces as I was going. And it startled me at first, because anytime something like that happens, when a strand of yarn breaks while you're knitting with it, you kind of panic and you think, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to rip this whole thing out. How is it's gonna unravel? But it's really not that big of a problem. You just have to tink back to a point where that strand of yarn is long enough that it can be woven in, and then you add the yarn back to the project. So it's really not that big of a deal, but it frustrated me at first, because I was thinking that it shouldn't happen, that's not something that should happen this soon in the knitting of this sweater, and so that kind of bugged me. And as I was knitting further, I was noticing portions of the yarn where I was thinking that was going to happen again, and it was kind of becoming nerve-wracking, and so it frustrated me. But had I paid a little bit more attention to the Quarry info card that comes with the yarn when you purchase it, I would have had a little bit more patience with the yarn in that situation. So when you buy yarn from Brooklyn Tweed, and I don't know if this is the case with every yarn that they carry, but it's definitely the case with this, it gives you a little bit of information about the yarn, about the construction of the yarn, about the various nuances of the yarn that might be important to know if you're going to work with it. Now, I should have paid attention to this before working with the yarn, because it talks a little bit about that. Because it mentions that if you are putting a lot of pressure on the yarn, it might be important to give the yarn a few extra twists to keep it from breaking apart like it was doing. That kind of strengthens it a little bit, especially if you're cabling. And it even mentions that if you're doing a big cabling maneuver, give it a few revolutions so that way it strengthens the plies. The yarn actually looks like a single ply yarn. This looks like it's been worked up in a single ply, but it's not. It's actually 3 unspun plies that are plied together loosely, and that's how we get this. So you're not really working with a single ply yarn, you're working with 3 plies that are really loosely spun together, which I think lends itself to that splitting if you're not twisting it when you're working something more tight like a cable. But yeah, so that was information that I think I should have had prior to beginning. So if you are buying from Brooklyn Tweed and they do provide you with an information card for the yarn, check it out. You never know, especially if you're doing something like cabling, like this is a heavily cabled garment. That would be good to know just in case. It saves you the frustration. It doesn't necessarily mean you're not going to have that problem, but at least you'll understand why that's happening, and you don't question the quality of a particular yarn, because we do that. We tend to jump really quickly to questioning the quality of something like this when things like that happen. And in a lot of cases with a fiber product like this, it doesn't necessarily have to do with the quality as much as it does understanding the construction of the yarn. So I think that's really important to kind of keep in mind. Ever since I took the time to read that, I feel a lot better about the yarn. I know what to do when I get to a point where I feel like the yarn's integrity has been compromised by my, my cabling or what have you. So it's just really good to know. But otherwise, I'm really enjoying this knit. It's a lot of fun. I love the color. I love the garment. I can't wait to have it whenever that happens. But yeah, I really love it. So this is the Marylebone Staghorn Cable Cardigan by Bristol Ivy. And I don't know, I really, really love it. So if you have the interest in knitting something like this, definitely check it out. It's a pay-for pattern on Brooklyn Tweed, and it's really, really beautiful. And I get to try out a new yarn, so that's a bonus. Last but certainly not least, I mean, this is a beast of a project, but I'm super excited to share with you, is my Simplicity Cowl. So this is a design that I found on the Bromfield's website. It is a very, very simple, dare I say, beginning knitter's pattern. you know, and I'm only saying that to give you a frame of reference. It's really, really simple. I am knitting this in a super bulky yarn that I mentioned in the previous episode, and it is a 70% wool, 30% nylon single ply fiber that I picked up at Joann Fabrics. This is the tag, so it is from Wool and the Gang, and it is their new line that they are putting out at Joann stores. I mentioned this in detail in the previous episode, but I love this so much. It was such a gem to find this at Joann's because I love Joann's, and to see this yarn because I've really been coveting, you know, Wool and the Gang fiber, and I definitely plan on indulging in some of their more top of the line yarn. But when I saw this at Joann, I just couldn't help it because I knew I wanted to knit the Simplicity cowl, and I knew this would be perfect. So without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at what I have so far with this cowl. So I'm going to go ahead and throw it on. If you follow me on Instagram, you've seen probably one of my more recent posts where I show this in all its glory, and you guys, it is huge. It is bordering on an avant-garde knitwear piece, I'm telling you, because it is enormous. Like, I could, like, look at it. I can hide completely inside this thing, and that's how amazing it is. So this is the Simplicity cowl. Super, super jumbo, extra large, plus size version because it's amazing. It's a super duper dose of knitty, chunky goodness. I love it so much. So pretty much all it is I want to say 72 stitches, knit one, purl one, and it's perfection. And in this fiber, it's great. And I really love this. I feel like it's perfect for a project like this. It definitely is the loftiness that you're looking for in a really, really chunky, bulky cowl like this, and that's how I like to wear my cowls. I like them to be bulky, I like them to be big and kind of over the top, like I said, a little bit on the avant-garde side, because I think that's what makes them really, really cool. They stand out, almost like if you're wearing a really super duper jumbo scarf and you wrap it around your neck a bunch of times. I just love it. I love the way that looks. And this especially, I'm checking it out in the screen right now, but I love that I can pull it over my shoulders like this, and it's still, and I'm not even finished with it, and it still stacks up and gives you that funnel. You could pull it over one shoulder and you could have it up here. And I want to make sure I'm not like pulling the needles out of this, but yeah, it's really everything. I love it so much. I'm already thinking about all the ways that I would wear this. I was thinking about how I could modify the pattern so you almost had like a hood that went up, but then I'm thinking like that's probably over the, like when would I ever wear this in, you know, the high deserts of Nevada? I don't know. I mean, but you know what I mean? Like, look how cute that is. If only it were a little bit long in this one area so it would be a hood. I don't know. I dream up all the different ways that I can wear this. I love it so much. This is but what I have here is exactly 2 balls of this yarn. So this is 76 yards, and you can throw a whole ball into this project in the time it takes you to watch, I don't know, like an episode of Project Runway. That's how fast this thing is. And the only reason why it's not done yet is because I've been working on other things too and not devoting all of my time to this. But I finished like half of what you see here yesterday while I was watching the Great British Baking Show with my husband, and it's effortless, it's fast, it's instant gratification at its best. It would make a really beautiful Christmas gift for somebody who likes this kind of thing. It's just, you guys, I love it so much. I just want to sit here and play with like styling it for you, because that's what we all want, right? If you are interested in knitting something like this, it's the Simplicity cowl, Bromefields, super, you know, modifiable. If you desire to do something like that, I love it. My cat is flicking the door stoppers. You know, the things that go like this and then it sounds like a motorcycle's driving by. Oscar! Anyway, I love it, and I know you will too. And if you haven't checked out your local Joann, if you have a Joann store near you, definitely check it out so you can get your hands on a ball of this, because it's really, really delicious yarn. It's a really great compromise. 70% wool, 30% acrylic. I think I said nylon earlier, and that's out of habit. Sorry, it is acrylic, so it's 70% wool, 30% acrylic, but I think that that's a reasonable compromise if you're looking for something that really is light on the synthetic fibers and it's definitely easy on your budget. I think each ball is $15, which is not bad for what you're able to produce with this. So for 3 balls of that, I was able to create, or for 2, I guess, I was able to create what I have here. I'm thinking I'm going to get all 3 added into this, but we're going to have to see how crazy that gets, because otherwise you may not even be able to see my face at that point. We'll have to see, but I'm taking the risk because I don't know what else I'm going to use this for at the moment, and I just want to give it a shot. So we'll see. But anyway, keep posted on Instagram because I will be posting my progress on this and all of my other projects, and I will be updating my Ravelry projects page every so often, so you can check progress photos there. By the next time I record an episode, this will be finished, so we will see what it's all about at that point. So definitely look forward to that. If you are also knitting one of these, or you decide to start knitting one of these and you're using something similar to knit it with, tag me in your Instagram post because I really would be interested to see some of the big chunky cows that you guys are working on. I haven't done a dream knitting segment, I think, in a really long time. If I've even ever done, I don't think I called it dream knitting the last time I did something like this, but can we just take a minute because I have 2 things that I'd like to share with you guys that are definitely high on my dream knitting list. There are tons of projects that I dream about knitting, just kind of like all of our queues are just loaded with things that we probably won't get to in our lifetime, but I just want to choose 2 because these are really, really kind of hot on my mind right now because they're both relatively chunky, really fun, rustic knits, and I want to share them with you guys. Okay, so the first one was actually inspired by a blog post by Karen Templer on Fringe Association's site. She was actually doing a post, it's a series of posts that she calls Knit the Look, where she takes a high fashion look that is a piece of knitwear and she talks about how you could improvise and knit that look for yourself. And she has a look on Mariska van der Zee, and it's a pullover made out of a really bulky single ply yarn, and the pullover kind of emulates almost exactly the Elizabeth Zimmerman Hurry Up Last Minute sweater in the Knitter's Almanac. So this is the Hurry Up Last Minute sweater, and I'm actually going to patch in a better photo of this right now so you can see this version of the Hurry Up Last Minute sweater by Elizabeth Zimmerman. You can see that the raglan construction is really cool, the way that it starts right in the middle of the collar and it works its way down to under the arms, and that is actually very, very similar, if not identical, to what Mariska van der Zee is wearing in the photo that Karen Templer shows on her blog post on Fringe Association. Now, when it was the photo on her blog post that caught my eye and really appealed to me, and then when she said that it came from Knitter's Almanac, a book that I have and have wanted to knit from by Elizabeth Zimmerman, I was that much more interested in giving this a shot. And as a lot of us know, if you know anything about Elizabeth Zimmerman and her sweater construction, she does a lot of raglan designs, a lot of one-piece knitted sweaters. She really talks about not liking to purl, so if she can avoid purling, she definitely tends to do that. And so that's why a lot of her pieces tend to be top down and in one piece. Who doesn't like to knit a sweater all in one piece? And so that just kind of, the idea, you know, piqued my interest, and then this sweater especially piqued my interest, and I love it so much. So that is the first on my list of dream knitting right now. My second dream knitting pattern actually just arrived on my doorstep. It is in the new publication by Hannah-Lisa Hefferkamp and Verena Kors called Woods Making Stories. If you are not familiar with this publication, you definitely need to check it out. It's a really, really cool kind of look at various different makers, their techniques that they use, their story behind their, like, kind of their making. I guess you could just say it's their fiber story, it's their making story. Lots of really cool patterns and technique tips in here. Really earthy and woodsy, you know, no pun intended. And it's just a really beautiful publication. It is a paperback, but it's gorgeous. The construction of the book is really pretty, so it's a perfect coffee table book. That's actually where it's sitting right now in my house, and I really love it. So here is the cover of Woods Making Stories. You guys, it's just so inspirational, so cozy patterns, but the pattern that really struck me was the Black Forest cardigan. So this is it here. It is a classic shawl collar gray cardigan. Actually the yarn here has a little bit of a blue tinge to it. The yarn is beautiful, but it's just gorgeous. And the design, like the stitch patterns that you see here, I mean, look how simple but yet elegant that is together. I don't know, I love it so much. It kind of has that, dare I say, grandpa cardigan look to it. There are no buttons, and a shawl collar cardigan, in my opinion, needs no buttons, and it's just perfect. The yarn is actually Derirum Natura. I'm not actually familiar with that yarn brand, but I love the way it looks in this cardigan. And then the design is by Verena Kors, who is one of the writers of this publication. So it's just all around a beautiful design. I love that thick, it's almost like a fisherman's rib. I love it. You guys, it's beautiful. So this was my favorite pattern from this publication, and they're all beautiful. Some really gorgeous patterns. There's a pair of mittens in here that I die. They are so happy and sunshiny, and the color work is really pretty. So they're here. These are the Winterfold mittens. So, I don't know, I love them. I just love the woodsiness. Again, it's like the name of this was so perfect, but I love the woodsiness of this whole aesthetic that's going on in this book. So if you haven't checked out Woods Making Stories, definitely do. But I'm really happy that it got to my house and I was able to add one of these designs to my dream knitting profile. And I think that the initiative that they took to put this out to kind of bring forward these makers and tell their story, I thought that was really cool. So it's just a really awesome publication, plus you get some really beautiful patterns. So that is the second in my dream knitting lineup right now. What are you guys dreaming about knitting? Anything that I might like? I'm always up for really cool new patterns. I'm always scanning through Ravelry, but I love to hear about fun new patterns that you guys are working on, because it's really, when it comes to being inspired to knit something new, it's the people in the knitosphere that, you know, are on Instagram and Ravelry that really inspire us to knit these things. So that's kind of what I am inspired to knit right now. I don't know when I would be knitting any of these, but they are on my dream knitting list for sure. Let's go ahead and talk about some of the yarny goodness that is coming to the shop on Tuesday, December 5th. I have some really beautiful things to share with you guys today. I'm super excited for this shop update, not only because of the beautiful yarn that's coming, but also because of the Fire Pit Mitts pattern that's going to be released. Also, if you are interested in buying gift cards for those that you love for the holidays, you're not really sure what kind of indie dyed yarn they would like, but you know that they would like it one way or another, I am now offering gift cards. They are actually gift codes. You can purchase them in various different denominations on the website. You purchase the denomination that you would like, and it sends you a code that can then be gifted to somebody and used towards their purchase at Fiber for the People yarn. You can just go to the shop, just click on the shop tab, and it's in there with all the other beautiful yarn. You'll see a little product box that says gift cards. That's where you would go for that. And then also another really good thing that's happening over on the website is you can create a customer account. So next time you go to make a purchase, choose to create an account, and it will save all of your information privately, safely, securely, so that next time you come back to make a purchase, you don't have to fill all of that in a second time. It's already saved for you and you can check out a lot faster. Also, if you haven't already, definitely sign up for the newsletter. You can go to the website, scroll down to the bottom, it says subscribe, put in your email address and click submit, and that will sign you up for the newsletter. It keeps you up to date on all of the future shop updates and those things that are going to be in the shops. Plus, I do put in almost every single time a promotional offer for newsletter subscribers. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. The first lineup that I'm going to share with you guys today is the solid lineup. All of the solids are on my O Merino worsted base, which is 218 yards, 100 grams of 100% non-superwash merino yarn. And you guys, it is scrumptious. So I'm going to show you the solid colorways that will be coming to the shop. Perfect for knitting Fire Pit Mitts or any other gifts that you would like to knit that are worsted weight for this season. It's a really beautiful base to work with. I've loved working with it, and the colors are gorgeous. Very on trend this season, in my opinion. Okay, so we'll go ahead and start with English Toffee, which is what I actually knit my own Fire Pit Mitts in. This is the English Toffee colorway. And this is English Toffee in a skein. Now this dye lot is a little bit different than the dye lot that I worked up for my mittens that I showed you, so it might be a little bit different. If you order multiple skeins of any one colorway, I strive to make sure that you get yarns in the same, if not similar, dye lots, but they are so close, it's really, really hard to tell any difference. As we know, that's just something that tends to happen with hand-dyed yarn like this. But this is the English Toffee colorway. I mean, just take a look at how beautiful this yarn is, you guys. It's just gorgeous. I love it so much. Beautiful. That is English Toffee. The next is Fawn Over Me, and I love this name. My mom named this actually because it's perfect. It has that fawn look to it. It's a really beautiful tan, I don't want to say beige, it's a little bit warmer than a beige, but it's definitely a nice nutty tan color. Perfect fawn color in my opinion. You can kind of see a comparison. So here is English Toffee and here is Fawn Over Me, and they're beautiful. They're really beautiful together. If you were doing a color work project and you wanted something a little bit more earthy, these would be really beautiful together. But that is Fawn Over Me. Okay, next is Piglet. I don't have a label on this one. That's okay. You can see the whole kit and caboodle of this colorway. So this is Piglet. You can definitely see the inspiration for the name. It's a really pretty classic pink. It's not too pink. It's not lacking in pink. It's definitely just pink, but I feel like those of us who tend not to gravitate towards pink could still appreciate this color. I really love it. That's why I kind of dyed it this color. I mixed a few different things together to arrive at this pink, and I feel like it's a great pink for this season, kind of for this year. It's been a popular hue, I guess you could say, but I really love it. So this is Piglet. Yeah, it's gorgeous. If I pull it back a little bit, it's less washed out by the lights. It's just a really beautiful pink, and here's a comparison with another solid to kind of give you an idea. Sometimes seeing it up against another solid almost gives you a little bit more of an idea of the colorway. So that is Piglet. We then have Oxblood, and this is a classic red, festive red, but not too, I guess it doesn't have to be a festive red. There's a line in the movie The Holiday, if you're familiar, where Cameron Diaz talks about a red, and she talks about how she wants a red that's a more Christmassy red and not so much of a Scorsese red. If you know anything about Martin Scorsese movies, maybe you can get that reference, but I think that that's an appropriate phrase for this red. It's not too red and dramatic, but it's not too festive. It's kind of just that perfect combination of reds, I guess you could say. So this is Oxblood, and here it is with another color next to it for reference. Beautiful. And then we have Mama's Lipstick, and I called it this because I actually have a lipstick that is this color, and I'm actually wearing that lipstick right now. It doesn't look like this on my lips, but that's what it looks like in the tube, but it reminded me of that. It's an aubergine plum color. You guys, I can't get enough of this color. Like, please, seriously give me all of the things in this color. I think that this would probably be, I don't know, I guess I could even say this is my favorite color. I love a deep plum wine color, but I really love this. I almost love that this is cooler than a wine color. A wine plum would almost be a warmer color. This is a little bit cooler, but I just love this color so much. When I dyed this and it came out just like I was expecting it would, I had to mix a few things together to arrive here, and gosh, I was floored because this is exactly what I want to knit all the things out of. I love it so much. So this is called Mama's Lipstick, and it's beautiful. I love it so much. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so I want to tell you a little bit of a story about, I guess you could say this is a cautionary tale about this particular colorway. So these here were meant to be the same color, and they are so close that I actually called them the same thing. So they are both called Going Out Jeans. This is called Going Out Jeans, and that's a full stop. It's just called Going Out Jeans. This is called Going Out Jeans Faded, and that's because, as you can see, there are parts of it that are a little bit more faded, almost giving it a tonal look. It's gorgeous. I love it so much. It's just not the same, and so I wouldn't put these two together. They will actually be listed separately. They'll have pretty close to the same name, but one will be a faded variety and one will be the original. I wouldn't want you to purchase what you thought was this and receive this just because they're different. So that's what we have going on here. So the reason this happened is because when I was going, it had been a long day of dyeing yarn. I was going to add my leveling agent to my dye pot for this faded version. This was supposed to be a regular Going Out Jeans version. And the leveling agent I was going to use was ammonium sulfate. And ammonium sulfate allows the dye to adhere to the yarn more slowly, giving it a much more thorough cover over the yarn so everything comes out a lot more evenly. I scooped out the measurement that I would usually use for ammonium sulfate of citric acid and put it into the water. And then I added my yarn, and the damage at that point would have been done. Citric acid causes dye to adhere to yarn really quickly, much more quickly than ammonium sulfate, which can lead to something that has a patchier, more tonal look. And that's, it's a technique. You can use that as your technique if you're looking for that particular kind of appearance in your yarn. I was not. I wanted something definitely more thorough. But I was really pleasantly surprised with how it came out because it does kind of have that faded, dark jeans look. And so it worked out. But it just goes to show that you really have to pay attention to those kinds of things because it does definitely, play a role in how the yarn's going to come out. But because I loved it so much, I of course I'm going to keep it, but I labeled it the faded variety. So we have your Going Out Jeans and we have your Going Out Jeans faded. Whoa. Oh. Going to bed? I'm coming. I bet you are. So definitely interesting, but these will both be in the shop. Both will be listed as Going Out Jeans, but one will be listed as a faded variety and one will be listed just as Going Out Jeans, depending on what you're looking for. They are both beautiful, and that's why I'm including both of them in the shop. So just keep that in mind if you're looking for this colorway. So look out for the faded label because you will be getting a more faded variety of the Going Out Jeans colorway. All right, the next color is a true green. I love this so much. Green is one of my favorite colors, and this green definitely does that for me. So this is called Hunter. It is, like I said, a classic green. It's almost like a grass green color, a spring grass green color. Oh, I love it so much. Really, really beautiful. It kind of looks a little brighter on the screen than it is in reality. It's a little bit deeper, I think, than what you're seeing here, but it's very beautiful. Very beautiful green color. And to see it kind of like with something else next to it as a reference, this is Going Out Jeans Faded, and then this is Hunter. I love it. So this is also going to be an option for you. And then we have actually a lucky strike. It's I know how to achieve this color, but the way that I managed to get it this time around was kind of lucky. I reworked this colorway on a skein of yarn that I had of my own to see if I would get something similar, and I got something so similar that I know that I'll have this colorway returning to the shop. It looks a little bit different on the yarn that I have than it does on the merino yarn. I'll show you in just a second, but this is the colorway. This is Breath. And the reason I called it Breath is because it reminds me of when it's super cold outside and you can see your breath. That's kind of what inspired the name. So this is a really beautiful pale blue. It's almost a gray tinged with blue. It reminds me a lot of the yarn that I'm using for my Marlebon cardigan. It just has just enough blue in it for it to have, for it to not be a whole gray, but it's still, very, very slight. So it's beautiful. So this is called Breath. Now, I practiced this colorway on a skein of single ply roving style wool that I've had. It's just a raw single ply wool that I had in my stash. And this wool, the yarn itself is much more ecru in color than the merino, so it's going to have a little bit different cast to it, but it's so close that on the lighter ecru merino yarn, I feel like it would come out quite similar to what I have here with Breath. This is the one that I did after the fact to see if I could recreate the color. It does kind of have more of a green cast to it. Again, that's because the yarn itself is just a little bit more yellow. It's more ecru. It's kind of a true wool yarn color. This is a lighter color, so it comes out a little bit more blue here, but it's so close. So I'm really excited to be able to bring this color back in future updates. But for right now, this is what's available, and it is called Breath. It's very limited in quantity, so if you like this, work fast. I love this. I'm tempted to snag a skein of this, but it's so limited that I don't think I want to do that to you guys. So this is just, I don't know, it's just a gorgeous color. So this is called Breath. Okay, last but not least for the solids is Teal Me Away, and this color, I love it so much. It is a classic teal colorway. It's just so fun and vibrant and lively. I mean, when we think teal, like, or at least when I think teal, this is what I think. Ugh, I just love it. I love looking at it even on the screen right now. It's so beautiful. Ugh, I don't even know if I have all the words to tell you guys, but I really love it. So yeah, see, like I'm at a loss for words. It's gorgeous. It looks a little bit less green on the screen than it actually is. There's a little bit more green in it in reality than what's showing up on the screen. The screen's giving it more. If I hold it further away, you might be able to see that it's got more green in it. Maybe if I put it up against something that's actually green. I don't know if that's deceiving or not, but yeah, I don't know. You guys, I love it so much. So Teal Me Away is going to be in the shop on the O Merino worsted. All of these are in the shop on the O Merino worsted base. I'm going to go ahead and hold them up for you guys as best as I can so you can see in all their glory. They're all beautiful. I can't wait for you guys to get your hands on a skein of this because they're gorgeous, and you're gonna love knitting with this. Let me just tell you, it's the perfect accessory yarn. It's the perfect everything yarn. I definitely don't have, you would have to be very lucky to snag a sweater's quantity of this in this update, but in the following update and future updates, there will be large batches of some of these colors so that if you are interested in a sweater's quantity, it will be available to you. But this update, that might be a little bit challenging, but it is perfect for an opportunity to purchase some really great accessory yarn for the fire pit mitts or what have you. So keep that in mind. So that is the solid lineup for Tuesday's update. Okay, we have two colorways coming to the shop for the variegated lineup. I have two variegated colorways, and these colorways are actually only going to be available on two different bases. There's a reason for that. I'm actually phasing in some new yarn bases, and I'm in this middle transitional period between one big batch of yarn that I dyed and another one that is not here yet of some new yarn that I have been sampling and have committed to from some other suppliers. So I'm really excited about that, but the reason why there's a limited number of bases here is for that reason. I'm kind of phasing in some new things, trying out some new things, and so I only have limited bases for these particular colorways, but these are gorgeous bases. And one of them is new as well, so you're going to be able to have an opportunity to try something new. So this first colorway, this is called King's Robe, and I'm going to show it to you first on our new bulky base. So this is called Scrumptious. It is an 80/20, which is really awesome because you're getting a single ply bulky yarn with an 80/20 construction, so you do have a little bit more of a strength in the yarn, which I love. So here it is. This is King's Robe. I'm going to hold it up like this. It's a beautiful teal and some pale yellows and royal purple with some deeper plums going throughout. It's truly variegated. I love the way it looks on this bulky yarn. I'm going to get in really close so you can kind of see the yarn in all of its glory. Oh, it's so beautiful. You guys, let's just take a minute. Isn't that gorgeous? So this is King's Robe. It will be available on this. This is Scrumptious, an 80/20 superwash merino nylon single ply bulky base. 76 yards in this, 100 grams. And then I'm also going to be featuring it on my Tailor's Favorite, which is another 80/20 2-ply twist fingering weight yarn. So here it is on my Tailor's Favorite. It's really interesting how the colorway looks on such drastically different bases. So you can see it here. So we have the Tailor's Favorite and the bulky base with King's Robe. It's really beautiful. I'm super excited to be sharing this colorway with you guys. I think that you're going to love it just as much as I do. We're especially going to love it when it focuses on the yarn. Yeah, it's just gorgeous. It is all the feels, you guys. I love it so much. So that is King's Robe. We have it on the bulky base. We have it on the we have it on the bulky base. We have it on Tailor's Favorite, and they're both beautiful. So those will be in the shop. Relatively limited quantities, so you definitely want to work fast if this is something you have your eyes on. And then of course it is just going to be available on these two bases. Okay, the next colorway I have, I really love this because actually both of these that I'm showing you right now, I've been inspired to kind of work with deeper color palettes because that's what's appealing to me. And I feel like as a person who designs colorways and provides them to people, it's important to go with your own it's important to be inspired by the things that you really love at the time. You know, just as much as just as much as trends inspire you, I think thinking about the things that really call to you and speak to you, I think it's important to use those in your design process. And so that's kind of where these colorways came from, is they came from color palettes that just are really speaking to me right now, and this one especially. So I'm going to show it to you first on the bulky base, and then I will show it to you on the 80/20 2-ply Tailor's Favorite base. This is called Lights Through the Trees. So here is the colorway. It's just so beautiful because I love the contrast of the deep black running through this beautiful sage leaf color, and then you see these warm reds popping through. And of course, I don't name my skeins until after they're skeins. I don't name them in the pot. I definitely don't name them and then dye them. I always name them after they're worked up in a skein like this, because that's where I see the story that the colorway tells, I guess you could say. And to me, this reminds me of what you see at night if you're looking through a forest of trees at houses that are lit up. And houses that maybe even are lit with Christmas lights, because you're getting the red and the green. But it's just what came to me. It's just kind of what I thought about in this colorway, because it has a darkness to it, but it also has a bright feel and a warm feel with the colors that are coming through, and that's kind of the story it told to me, and so that's why it's called Lights Through the Trees. So this is the 80/20 bulky base Scrumptious, and then I also will be having it on my 80/20 Tailor's Favorite, and of course it's going to look different on the different bases. So here it is on my Tailor's Favorite base. It's really beautiful. And then together, it's a cool contrast. I like the contrast of the different yarn bases. So that is called Lights Through the Trees. Okay, there will be a collection of speckled yarns in the shop. I have 3 speckled colorways that I want to share with you guys. And I'm going to start with the one speckled colorway that is going to be featured on both the Scrumptious base and the Tailor's Favorite 80/20 base. The other speckled colorways are only going to be available on the 80/20 2-ply twist Tailor's Favorite base. But this colorway is called Fruitcake, and it makes me so happy. It's festive and cheery and bright. I'm going to show it to you first on my Tailor's Favorite base. So here is Fruitcake on my Tailor's Favorite base. Oh, it is gorgeous. I love it so much. It's a pale pink, almost like a peachy pink color. It's not a true pink, with speckles of teal and a deeper, kind of like an orangey peach color There's some golds in there, some greens going through, some clover greens in there as well. It's just such a fun variety, and it reminded me of fruitcake with all the various different colors that you see in a fruitcake. I love it so much. So this is fruitcake on the 80/20. It is so soft and delicious, and love all of the textures that I feel here, especially see here with the different colors. Here's the 80/20 up close. You can see that beautiful 2-ply twist that it has. It's just a beautiful sock yarn. Gorgeous stitch definition. It's kind of everything I love in a sock yarn, honestly. So that's on the fingering weight base. And then here is the scrumptious bulky base in the fruitcake colorway. I mean, please. It's gorgeous. And then together, what? Yeah, they make a happy family. So that is fruitcake, and it will be available on 80/20 Taylor's Favorite and Scrumptious Bulky. Oh, get you some of this, guys. I love it so much. So festive, so cheery, so warm, so fun. Okay, and then the next colorway I'm going to show you is only available on the 80/20 2-ply twist. It is something different. I haven't dyed anything in this color family before, and I love it so much. I'm obsessed with this colorway. Oh, it came out just beautifully. This is called Jewelry Box. I was inspired by a photo I saw of a jewelry box in a gift advertisement, and the jewelry box was open, and there were some gemstones and some chains, the gold chains, and various different things kind of falling out of the box. And it was a beautiful array of colors, not all similar. It just caught my eye. It was really, really beautiful, and I loved it so much, and I thought that would be such a fun inspiration for a colorway. So here it is, Jewelry Box, beautiful tones of blue, some kind of more light watery tones going on, golds, the black speckles add a really pretty contrast. You guys, I really love it. It's different in terms of things that I have dyed, and I love that I'm moving in the direction of a kind of a more blue watery colorway, especially considering I still think that this is seasonal. I love the theme of Jewelry Box, and I feel like it captures that image really, really well, and that's definitely something we think about during gift giving season. I mean, yeah, I really love it so much. So this will be available in the shop on this 2-ply base, which is obviously, it's my favorite. It's super soft, super scrumptious. I love it. So this is Jewelry Box. I love you, Jewelry Box. Okay, last but not least in the speckled colorways is Christmas Nougat. Now, not every aspect of this would you see in a Christmas Nougat candy, but for whatever reason, this entire colorway just conjures the image of a plate full of Christmas Nougat. I can't explain it, but maybe you'll be able to see what I'm talking about when I show you. So here is Christmas Nougat. It's a beautiful two-toned yarn with an array of Christmas speckles going through it. And of course, what made me think of Christmas Nougat are the red and the green and the gold speckles happening in the white portion of the yarn. The deep charcoal gray that's going on, I'm not really sure, but that even kind of helps with that inspiration, even though there is no gray in a Christmas Nougat candy. But for whatever reason, it just kind of works, and the whole thing together makes me think of Christmas Nougat candy. Perhaps I'm imagining a plate of Christmas Nougat and the plate is a charcoal gray color. Who knows? But that is Christmas Nougat. It's gorgeous. It's going to knit up, if you were to knit a pair of socks with this, it's going to have a beautiful spiraling effect. And I can't wait to see somebody knit a pair of socks with this because I just think it's gorgeous. I mean, let's get up close and personal with those speckles. What? Please. Are you kidding me? I mean, it's gorgeous. Look how fun. I love two-toned yarns. I love dyeing two-toned speckled yarns. It's just great. So that is the last in the speckled lineup. So I'm going to show you all the 80/20s because they're a little easier to hold of what we have in the speckled lineup. So we have fruitcake, jewelry box, and Christmas nougat, and those are going to be available in the shop on Tuesday, December 5th at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Christmas nougat and jewelry box are only going to be available on the 80/20, but fruitcake, as I mentioned, is going to be available on both the scrumptious, bulky, and the 80/20. And then, of course, we have the beautiful variegated colorways that will be available on both bulky and 80/20, so both scrumptious and Taylor's favorite. And here they are right here. So on the top here, I have King's Robe, and on the bottom, I have Lights Through the Trees. So much gorgeous, warm, deep seasonal colorways in my, so many gorgeous, warm, deep seasonal colorways are happening and coming to the shop. Let's put this whole group of amazingness together and give you the whole bouquet of yarny goodness. So there it is. It's all coming to the shop Tuesday, December 5th. Be there so you can snag the skein that you're eyeballing. These are the multicolored, variegated and speckled, and then like I showed you earlier, we have the beautiful O Merino worsted solids coming to the shop. You guys, all of it makes me so happy. Such beautiful, beautiful colorways. And before I forget, I am also going to have 2 Lucky Strike colorways going into the shop on the Taylor's favorite 80/20 base. I have yet to name these, so you're going to have to keep your eyes out for the colorway when you see it. I am going to be coming up with a name for these, and it will be in the shop, but you want to look for the 2 that I'm going to hold up for you right now. So these are the 2 Lucky Strike colors. This colorway right here is actually really similar to one I've had in the past. This seafoam green is a beautiful sage green variety. I haven't had anything like this in the past yet completely, I think. But these will be in the shop. Now, here's the kicker. There are only 1 of each of these. What you see in my hands is all there is going to be. I will come up with a name. I'm definitely going to post these on Instagram before the update, so keep posted there if you are interested. But they will both be in the shop ready for you, so just keep an eye out for that. And they, like I said, are on my 80/20 Superwash Merino Nylon, Taylor's favorite 2-ply twist base, and they're gorgeous. Don't forget to sign up for the newsletter so that way you can keep posted on any promotional offers that I may be having and sending out, plus on any future updates. But definitely be there, you guys. I'm really excited for this next update, and it's also going to be where you can get your hands on the release of the Fire Pit Mitts pattern. So you can pick up the pattern, you can pick up a skein of yarn with which to knit the pattern, what have you. It's going to be a really fun update, so definitely be there. Tuesday, December 5th at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Alright guys, that is it. That is all I have time for today. Thank you so much for stopping by to check out the podcast and hanging out with me and talking about all of the yarny and fibery and knitty goodness. I love every opportunity I get to sit down and chat with you guys. It is so much fun. But right now I am going to go ahead and close up shop and go hang out with my family and enjoy the rest of the night and work on some of my knitting projects. And just indulge in a cozy Saturday evening. I hope you guys are doing the same. I will see you again on episode 18 of the Wool Needles Hands podcast. Don't forget to head over to the shop at fiberforthepeopleyarn.com for the update on Tuesday, December 5th. If anything, to get your pattern for the Fire Pit Mitts and to join us for the knit along starting on December 12th. I'm super, super excited to see what you guys are up to for that knit along. So until the next time I see you guys, happy knitting, happy whatever it is that you're doing, and I will see you guys in the next episode of the Wool Needles Hands podcast. Bye!
you.